Now, if you remember, yesterday we talked about the GDP. Now, what does that stand for?
Gross.
Domestic.
Product.
Oh, I'm so proud of you guys. Now, what does that mean? Maddie, do you have an idea of what it could mean?
Is it the market value of all final goods and services produced in a country during a period of time, typically a year?
Very good. Now, I wrote it up on the board so that way you guys can remember what the GDP is. So, an intermediate good is a good or service that is an input into another good or service, such as a tire on a truck or a car. So that means that it's not the entire product, but rather like a portion of the product. And that means that a final good is the final good, like the final product that a final user purchases. So, some examples are, for example, Sarah, you're wearing a jacket that has two parts, right? An outer shell and an inner shell.
I am wearing a jacket that has two parts.
And it has an outer shell and an inner shell. Now, if you took just the inner shell, would that be an intermediate good or a final good?
I don't know.
Well, since it's only a section of the jacket, it would be an intermediate good. So, an example would be Sarah's jacket. Maddie, what's an intermediate good on your jacket?
My buttons.
Very good. Now, what would be a final product, a final good on your jacket?
My jacket.
Very good. So, today, as part of better understanding what an intermediate and final good is, we're going to take a trip to downtown Columbia. Let's go.
Okay.
Yay!
Going on and
Alright, so kids, for your first lesson on intermediate goods, let's talk about some products that are intermediate. For example, if you look at this card, you see the tire. Do you think that's an intermediate good or do you think that's a final good?
final good.
No, unfortunately, that is not right. The tire, as it is part of the entire product of the car, is an intermediate good, but the entire car itself is a final good. Now, for example, I have this nice warm tea. Is this a final good or an intermediate good? That's an intermediate good. Great. Now, what is this? This entire product.
That's a final good.
Very good. You're just learning so well. So now we'll continue our intermediate and final good lesson as we venture downtown. Let's go. Okay, so for example, when you go to Subway and you buy a sandwich, say for example you got a meatball sandwich. Is the meatball an intermediate good or a final good?
I don't know this man. I'm not sure.
Okay, well when you buy the sandwich, you get the entire sandwich and the meatball is part of the sandwich. So that would be
Intermediate good?
very good.
Okay, I get it now. Thanks, Miss Man.
Let's continue on our way. Okay, Maddie, so how are you feeling about all of this intermediate goods and final goods?
I still don't know if I really understand. Could you do another example?
Of course. So over here at Ellie's picture, and for example, if you have this dress, what on here would be an intermediate good? Do you think you can figure it out?
Would it be the buttons?
Very good. Now, would the entire dress itself be an intermediate good or a final good?
That's a final good.
Very good. You're learning so well. I think you guys almost got it. Our field trip to downtown Columbia. Did you guys have fun?
Yes! So much fun.
Alright, so to see if you understand what an intermediate and final good are, and what goods are, and what the differences are, I'm going to ask each of you to give me an example of an intermediate good and a final good. Sarah, what's an example of an intermediate good and a final good?
Well, we walked past that car and the tire was an intermediate good on the car.
And what would be a final good?
The car was a final good.
Very good, Maddie. What's an example of an intermediate and final good?
Well, if I was selling cookies, the flour and the chocolate chips, they would all be intermediate goods, but the cookies would be a final good.
Very good. I see you guys have all understand what an intermediate and final good is, and tomorrow we'll talk about what makes up the GDP.